Well, this has been an interesting journey. When I started, I wasn't sure if people would be interested in it, and it looked like it was interested enough. And my original goal, kind of naively, was I thought, well, they're just starting the factory now. They say they're going to have the Cybertruck in about a year and a half. I think I'll just go through until the Cybertruck is done.
Yeah. Right.
And so like 4 years later, then the Cybertruck came out. But I don't know. There's a couple of things, when later in my military career, especially when I was over in Iraq, I was part of the reconstruction, or at least the planning for what was going on with Iraq. And I got a chance to work at pretty high levels with the Department of Defense, Department of State, and some of the Iraqi government, and figure out how you build stuff and how do you make things happen. And that eventually became just sort of knowledge about some construction, but also things like agile program management and those kinds of things. And just how do you, in a government organization, how do you get things done? And being able to watch something like the factory has been really interesting to me because, if you're just managing a large construction project, that's a big job. And there's so much that goes into building a factory or anything. If you're managing production of products, that's a big job because there's a lot that goes into that. Everything from design, development, setting up production lines, getting the infrastructure, the supplies to make these products. But what you see at Giga Texas, and you also see that down at Starbase and a lot of other places, is they're doing both at the exact same time. And that is like on another couple of levels above just managing one or the other. Right. And I think that is something people just do not, if you've never been in anything like that at all, you have no concept of how difficult that is. And, they have to make billions of decisions every day about all kinds of stuff, some of which are opposite of what you need for one of the others. Like, for example, early on with Giga Texas, I talked to some of the contractors and they were getting frustrated because Tesla would say, we need to put a wall over here. And the contractors are like, but eventually that's going to be plumbing's going to go through there or whatever. And Tesla's like, no, we need a wall right there right now. And the contractors are like, but this is dumb. But Tesla's like, no, we need it. Well, they needed it because at that point in time, they were going to do something that they needed to get done. And then they knew later on that they would then get rid of that wall. And it was just watching and hearing the conflict between the two of, we got to build this thing, but no, we got to make this thing, and another thing that they did early on that I thought was pretty cool, and they continue to do it now, and you also see that Starbase and a lot of the other facilities is in the military, we called things like minimum essential capabilities. So as you're doing something, you get the minimum that you need to be able to do the mission at that time, not all of it. Right. And at Giga Texas, they did that exact thing. They set up the stamping structure, the body in white, some of the casting, the paint, and a small part of the general assembly so they could start building the Model Ys. And I had so many people asking, well, they can't build them. The factory's not done. And I'm like, well, they are. And the way they're doing it is that they built the minimum essential parts that they needed to start putting the cars out while they're still painting and building.
I remember the Giga Rodeo, what was it called? The
Cyber Rodeo?
Cyber Rodeo. I remember touring the factory in the Cyber Rodeo, and the building was still going on, and it was like being in a half-built. I mean, it was a half-built.
It was like an 80% not built building.
That's right.
It was so empty.
That's right. It was amazing, and a lot of people commented on it, but I just thought, my God, the opportunities here, in terms of what could still be done.
Well, it's not just the floor space that you see, it's the vertical as well. And that's something I've tried to at least help people understand, is that Giga Texas is anywhere, depending on which part of the building you're looking at, 1 to 4 floors with mezzanines and all that. And they're using all of that vertical and the horizontal. Yeah. And in some cases, they're blowing out walls and adding on so that they can keep putting more and more stuff in there.
I remember having this debate with Troy Teslike, where he did a calculation of the size of the area of Giga Texas and calculated the productive capacity of Giga Texas based upon the area of, I think it was Shanghai or something. And I said to him, Troy, It was of Fremont. I said, Troy, it's not like, and they've got multiple levels. Yeah, but you can't really use a mezzanine. Yeah, you can't really use the. Was he wrong? I mean, can they use those?
Yeah, we're not talking mezzanines like little tiny things. We're talking very substantial, huge. Massive. I mean, steel beams that are just gigantic. That they're putting into this stuff. But they're using. Well, they are eventually going to use every square inch of that space, but they still haven't finished it. I mean, they've been building so much. They've been adding so much. You can see on the west side of General Assembly near where the entrance is, because they thankfully put gigantic windows there. Yeah. And, some people go, well, why are you walking or looking through the windows? That's bad. And I'm like, well, you can just stand on the highway and see all this stuff too. So it's not like I'm showing you anything you can't see.
Yeah, you sure can.
But you can just see how much stuff that they're building. And they've been doing this for, in July, it'll be 5 years. And there's still space in that factory to add stuff.
I'm very excited to see what comes of, this year. This year is going to be incredibly exciting. So we're going to see more drone flights. I'm very excited to see the lithium plant, because we've watched that grow up. I pass it every time I go to Boca Chica, and I do that, almost every flight, every launch. We see each other at the launches. And so what's the future for this podcast? I mean, you've talked about, watching the rest of it build out. And then,
Well, they haven't finished. In fact, they're just starting some major new projects up there. So there's still a lot of interest to me, because I want to find out what they're doing. I think it's cool. The relationship that they've given me has just been amazing. That they let me do this. But as far as what I want to do is, I think, I'll keep doing this. Right now I do it 3 times a week. Maybe at some point I'll drop that down a little. But I'm also interested in space, and that is my actual background.
Right.
And so covering what's going on down at Starbase is very interesting to me.
They don't allow drone flights.
They don't. The only people that can fly drones down there are pretty much SpaceX, the drone team, or anybody that's working directly for SpaceX. And that's actually very important, not only just to make sure that they don't have any problems with any of the active work that's going on. But,
some of the stuff is not for public.
Yeah, well, there's that, and it's just safety, and just ultimately, I was talking about tankers being critical for the United States to be able to force protect and become more than just a coastal defense kind of country. If SpaceX is successful, and it's not just SpaceX, if you look at Blue Origin, you look at a lot of the other companies that are up and coming through this commercial space, the plans that they have, the goals that they have, the capabilities that they want to have, eventually is all going to require on-orbit refilling.
Right.
And that's going to be a system of depots and also basically tankers to refill them and to keep them able to, give that fuel, the oxidizer and the whatever they're going to use for the fuel, so that we can go off and do all of our lunar, Mars, solar system, whatever.
Yeah.
And speaking in military terms, the center of gravity of our space plans is on-orbit refilling. And the center of gravity of on-orbit refilling is the launch systems to be able to get the rockets, the tankers up into orbit. And things like Starbase, probably what we see at Cape Canaveral or Kennedy Space Center, maybe Vandenberg, obviously, but other places maybe, those are going to be like the critical infrastructure that needs to be protected. And I think that Starbase is going to be designated that sooner than later.
Yes.
So things like, drones or people walking up and seeing stuff, which the fact that you can walk up and see so much stuff is
the
amazing.
Most extraordinary thing in the world. I mean, we went there, my wife and I went there, I think our first visit was like 4 years ago. And there was almost nothing.
Right.
I mean, you could walk right up to the launch pad itself.
Exactly.
I mean, it was incredible. It's become less and less, but it's still the most extraordinary thing that you could walk up to this incredible launch. I mean, there's no way you can do that at Kennedy Space Center or anywhere in Cape Canaveral. I don't think anywhere in the world.
No, I think it's unique in the world.
Yeah.
I tell people, if you're thinking about going, go now. Because every time that they build a new building, every time that they put a new fence up, every time that they do other infrastructure development there, they're all becoming walls. They're cutting off access.
Yeah.
And, right now they're in the process of trying to incorporate Starbase as a city in Texas. I think early May is when there's going to be a vote on that. Assuming that passes, it will be a new city. There's some recent new kind of architectural and site planning documents that are coming out showing what they want to do.
Right.
But I think that what that's saying is that they're going to start fencing off or moving people farther and farther back. And then later meaning what? Later this year, next year, whatever, going back to that in-orbit refueling and the launch systems being kind of that center of gravity, being a national infrastructure, critical infrastructure, it would not surprise me if they come up and maybe federally they say, we're going to take over this land and then we're not going to allow people to get there.
Close the beach.
Yeah, and I think it's inevitable. It's just the question of is when.
So that's the bad news. The good news is they are building some development where you'll be able to watch the launches from the side of the river, a little bit further away, but from Starbase. So it's not the end of the world.
No, it's not. It's just, we're moving from the wild, wild west to a more mature system.
But we've enjoyed. I mean, it's been such a joy to be there. And the community that is there when you go and visit, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I want to, going back to what I'm going to do is I would like to continue to do more coverage of that and try to get that story out to people, let them understand what is going on, why they should be excited about that.